Only 1 in 1000 active chess.com members have a rapid elo over 2000. Although it's actually easier than you think to get there if you follow the 5 steps that I'm about to lay out for you in this video. So hit the like, subscribe button right now, and we're going to start with the first one immediately. The first one is going to be openings. What do I recommend for openings? Obviously, the age-old question comes in, should you study opening theory? And I've heard a lot of people say, no, you don't, no, you shouldn't, should focus on other things. I heard a lot of people say, oh, buy opening courses. No, those are both extremes. I think you should find a very good middle ground. What I would recommend you for openings is that you learn one opening for each color, and these openings should have similar pawn structure. What does that mean? For example, in the London system, you have this triangle of pieces, of pawns here. And for example, in the Caro-Kann, you have a similar triangle often. So these pawn structures are similar, and any d4 system is very well combined with the e6 with the Caro-Kann defense. So what I would recommend you for openings is that you play two openings or one opening rather, for each color, and that these openings should have similar pawn structures. That helps you to learn these pawn structures faster, and you only have to learn one pawn structure. For example, if you play the King's Indian attack with the white pieces, then you should play the King's Indian defense with the black pieces, because these pawn structures are really similar. And against, for example, e4 with the black pieces, you play the Sicilian dragon, for example, because in this case, you also fianchetto your Dachshund bishop on g7. Or for example, you play the Caro-Kann defense with the black pieces. Then you should consider playing, for example, d4 systems, London systems, maybe like knight f3 systems, Colley systems, because they also have this similar pawn structure with c3 and with this pawn triangle. This is what I would recommend you for openings. Find out if your openings have similar pawn structures. If yes, that is great, and learn one for each color. Now, I wouldn't recommend you to spend all your time on openings right now. I would recommend you to learn the basics, the fundamentals of one opening, for example, the Caro-Kann defense. You just watch a 10-minute YouTube video, that's all. You'll learn the fundamentals, and then you start playing, and you will see lines that you haven't seen, and after every game, you should obviously analyze your games. That is a point that I'm going to make later. You will see another line, okay, and then you make a Leacher study, and in these Leacher studies, you add this line. And what will happen over time, over like 3 months or something like this, that you will develop a full repertoire on like an opening that is also your own repertoire. So it's not just copied from like one YouTuber or from like this one course. Instead, you actually gain experience in these openings, and that is what I would recommend you to do. So as an example, let's say you want to learn the Caro-Kann defense. Just watch a 10-minute video on how to play the Caro-Kann defense, type it into YouTube, and then you will see the basic, okay, I have to play like c6 and d5, and then you will at some point stumble over the f3 variation, and you will probably lose that game because you're just gonna get crushed, but that is fine, that is part of the learning process. And then after the game, you realize, okay, that is an opening variation I've never played against. Okay, let me add that to my Leacher's study. That's basically what I do, and that's what you should do as well. So the second step to get to 2000 on chess.com is to realize the fact that in most of your games are decided by tactical oversight. Games under 2000 are mainly decided who sees this tactic, who doesn't see this tactic, who hangs their pieces less. Okay, maybe pieces hanging that happens like on like 500 to 1000 range, but sometimes you just hang pawns, you hang this, you oversee a tactic that you could have played, and your opponent uses those tactics. So tactical oversight is a real thing. And how do you fix that? What do I exactly recommend to fix that? You should analyze your own games. Every single game you play on chess.com, you analyze that game. You can run game review, but if you don't have chess.com like premium, then you should simply also, you can run the free engine, which is not game review, but you can run an engine on chess.com and review your games like that. And you shouldn't just find out what you did wrong, but why you did that wrong. How did you feel? What did you think? That's really, really important. And over time, what will happen is that you will stop making the same mistakes because your pattern recognition will kick in and you have to develop the pattern recognition. And obviously, the second way to develop the pattern recognition is to go and do puzzles. I would recommend you to do puzzles on Lichess because Lichess just simply has, in my opinion, very, very good puzzles. And you can also just simply do it on chess.com. Again, if you have chess.com premium, and that is basically how you're supposed to develop that pattern recognition and how you will stop this tactical oversight, which will happen. This is literally one of the most important points. You can have the perfect opening repertoire, but if you blunder your pieces or hang something, that all doesn't matter. Now, the third step to get to 2000 on chess.com is to practice endgames. What do I mean by that? At that point, you should know what a Lucina position, a Philidor position, and all of this is. You should practice endgames with particular pieces on the board. For example, you should practice endgames with just the queens on the board. You should practice endgames with just two rooks, with just one rook. Rook endgames are really important. Or endgames with a queen and two pieces. Just endgames that are there, that often occur. What happens if you do that? You will be more confident to play those endgames. You should also know basic checkmates, for example, like checkmating with a rook and a king. Obviously, that is very, very fundamental. But obviously, that you also have to know. And if you do that, you will just be much more confident to trade down in an endgame because you know, okay, I studied this endgame, I studied rook endgames, I know how to play them, I know what endgame principles are, I know all of this, and then you will outcompete your opponents more often. What happens over the level, let's say 1000, 1200, a lot of times you get in equal endgames and you have to know them. Now, with this being said, obviously there are more things you also have to train. And the fourth step to getting to 2000 on chess.com is improving your chess psychology and how you interact on those platforms. Now, what often happened to me is that I would go play a chess.com game. I would win it and I would feel great. Then I would say, okay, well, that's so good. So let me play another one. But then I lost that one. And then I was like, okay, I only wanted to play 2 games, but I have to get back the rating. So let me win again. And next game, I'm already a little bit tilted. I'm already a little bit thinking not so positive, right? Which is not a good thing. And then I go on to lose the next one. And then I'm already in this tilt mode, but I think, oh, I have to win the next one. I have to win the next one. I have to play one more to win the next one. That is actually so detrimental to chess. And what often happened to me, I would play for like 2 hours, which takes so much time of your day. I wouldn't analyze my games like at all, and I would just drop by 50 rating points because I was tilting and all of that. And this is definitely something that you should avoid. 100% avoid tilting, and basically what you're supposed to do with that. Now, what should you do instead? You should set yourself a limit. I would recommend you play 2 rapid games a day maximum, absolute maximum, and analyze both of them. Because what will happen is, if you, let's say, have the same scenario as I had, I won 1 game, then I played the second and I lost that one. Well, I said, okay, I'm only gonna play 2 games, so I quit. That's it. And then you won't have these tilt moments anymore. You set yourself a standard and you hold up that standard. Very, very simple. Or let's say you just play 1 game and then you lose. And then you could also say, okay, I'm not going to play after I lost. That is also a principle you can potentially set for yourself, not playing after losses. That is also something that helps people avoid tilt. There are also other psychological factors you should try to avoid is, for example, rematching opponents. Rematching opponents is an unnatural way to play. Let's say you just lost to an opponent and you rematch him. You're going to be trying to play more aggressive. You really, really want to beat him. And if you just won against him and you rematch him, well, then you will be playing more like, oh, okay, well, then you're playing in this arrogant kind of way. Or this is at least my experience, that you then will try to that you then already think that I'm already better than him. I don't need to focus as much. And that is the next thing that's really, really important. You have to be fully focused, 100%. I know people that play on chess.com that listen to music next while playing. And maybe this is you, maybe this is not you. You can do that, of course, if you want to. But if you want to be actually better at chess and you want to get the best out of these games that you play, well, then you shouldn't listen to music, because this will distract your focus. You will listen to the lyrics or something. Okay, it's maybe a little bit different with like these classical musics, and people say, okay, this helps me like studying and focusing and stuff. Okay, but like normal like music that you listen to, like rap music or whatever, that is not good to listen to. Every music with lyrics is not good to listen to while you play chess, or you like, yeah, I have two screens, right? Let's say I play on one chess and on the other I like watch a YouTube video by the side. Well, it's just gonna distract me. That is just a distraction, and that is not good, because you have to have full focus, because you only have 10 minutes, and if you every 5 seconds of these 10 minutes you get distracted, you look over to the other screen, well, then you're gonna lose so much time, and you're not focused in this time, and that is really, really important. I've seen people just by avoiding that and like just saying, okay, I'm not listening to music anymore, I'm not getting distracted, I'm gonna get a full focused, get like plus 100 rating points immediately. So the last and final step of getting to 2000 elo on chess.com is basically combining what you've already learned in this video and creating a good chess training routine. The number one reason why people don't improve in life and they don't improve in chess is because they're not consistent enough with what they're doing. If you're consistent at chess, you will get to the rating where you want to be. So, how to create a consistent training plan? I would recommend you, as I said before, to play maximum 2 rapid games a day, at least one, and analyze that in full. Set yourself, okay, a couple of minutes for puzzles, and then on some days you're also not gonna do puzzles and you're not gonna play and you're not gonna analyze. You're gonna do something else. You're gonna maybe study endgames. You're maybe gonna study your opening. You're maybe gonna be studying typical middle game plans, for example, or middle game concepts like, I don't know, pawn structures, maybe isolated pawn, hanging pawns, whatever pawn structures maybe, whatever you can find that you think will get you to 2000 in that particular area, that you maybe know that strong players know. For example, how to make a really good kingside attack. You know, there are things that in the middle game that I obviously didn't mention in this video that you have to know to get to this level. So learn those things, and if you make yourself a consistent training plan like that, you will get to 2000 much, much faster. I'll give you an example training routine. Let's say you don't have that much time. You play 1 chess game a day. You do 5 tactical puzzles on Lichess, let's say. Then you're also gonna analyze that. Okay, that's like your Monday, okay? Then on the next day, you're gonna do the same thing. And then on like maybe Wednesday, you're gonna say, okay, today I just work on openings. I legit just work on openings, and I just work on my opening repertoire. Then let's say on Thursday, okay, on this day I'm just gonna study that particular area of chess, endgames, for example. And let's say on Friday, you're just gonna start, okay, this pawn structure, for example, right? These are just examples, and obviously you should do or study the things that you think, okay, those are going to get me the greatest results and the greatest benefit. One great tip that you haven't heard of is using the website Aimchess. If you connect your chess.com account to Aimchess, you can create reports. For example, in these reports, they tell you what openings are really, really good and what openings are really, really bad, where you are good, in what areas of chess you're good, and in what areas of chess you're bad. For example, mine tells me, okay, I'm really, really bad at advantage capitalization, but I'm really good at, for example, openings or whatever. And then it also, in the opening, it tells you, okay, what are your strong openings and what are your bad openings. For example, I once had a report where it said I had a win rate with white of 60% and with black of like 30%. So clearly, I don't know how to play some openings with the black pieces. You should improve your openings, and this will help you greatly improve, this will help you greatly to make a study plan to tell you exactly where you should improve. So if you follow these 5 steps that I laid out for you in this video, then you will get to 2000. But if you want a kickstart on your chess progress, then you can get a 30 minutes chess coaching session from me, one-on-one personal chess coaching session. Just click the first link in the description. That's all. Hit the like, subscribe button right now, and I'll see you in the next video.